So, good afternoon, everyone. Let's start with the Heart Sutra. I prostrate to the higher triple gem. Thus did he hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on massive Vajra mountains in Rajgira, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that in the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage, daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition of factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristics. Unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition of factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. No visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on up to including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extension of ignorance and so on up to including no aging and death and no extension of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on dwelling perfection of wisdom. The mind without obscuration, without fear, having completely passed beyond error to reach the aim point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awakened to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of the great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared, Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you've indicated, even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. All right. Either you can sit down if you want, if you would like to. And whenever you feel bored, you can also just move around or kind of leave. You can do whatever you want to, Eddie. No worries. So, Jason is asking if I can add him to the recording list. Yes, I can, and I can also record a session myself. All right. So, what I thought of doing today in this session is to just wrap up a few points from the morning sessions that we had with Geshe-la. We've completed the 8th chapter from the text, and we began with the 10th chapter. So just for the couple of people that have joined us, we're studying a text that is called Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life in the morning. So we had teaching with the master, and in the afternoon, we just have a discussion and review of what we've done in the morning and other points. So we've completed the 8th chapter from the text, and where are my notes? Here they are. I think that we're repeated quite a few points that we have spoken of in the last couple of months, or even 2 or 3 months, speaking about the faults of attachment. So just to remind us where we were in the text. So we're looking at the actual way to practice the application of this attitude of cherishing others rather than oneself. So exchanging our self-cherishing attitude with the attitude of cherishing others. So in point B, when practicing this application of exchanging self with others, one should exert control over one's mind. So I had a read through those verses again at home and had a look at a couple of commentaries. And it seems to me that altogether, as I said yesterday, it speaks of not only what we do in a meditation session when we meditate on equalizing self with others, or exchanging self with others, meditating on tunneling and so forth, but it's also bringing this attitude into our daily life, so that also outside of our formal meditation sessions, we're still acquainting our mind with cherishing others and reducing our self-cherishing. So in order to do that, we definitely need to exert control over the mind, because it's easy to a certain degree to exert more control of the mind with mindfulness and introspection when you're in meditation, in a meditation session. Sometimes it's hard actually, because your mind becomes amplified, right? So it's kind of, you listen to your thoughts even stronger. But outside of the meditation session, when we encounter different things in our life, then it's harder to some degree to exert control. So here, particularly since we're applying this exchange of cherishing others more than oneself, Shantideva here is again touches upon examining the faults of the body and exerting control over the mind, in the sense that the immediate thing that creates an obstacle for us to practice the exchange of self with others, to cherish others more than oneself, is the attachment that we have to the body, but also all the other things that are based on the body. So I think that when we branch out of just the attachment that we have to the body, when we look at the different activities that we perform throughout the day, we have, when we get busy with food and clothing, discussions with others, working, music, whatever, to some degree, you can say that most of those things are oriented towards enjoyments of the body, and of course, enjoyment of the mind that is supported upon the body. But we're pretty much oriented towards whatever we can get for our body. So here, this is the main point that Shantideva addresses when he speaks of the faults of the body, examining the faults of the body, or as the other commentary suggests, we're going to treat the body civilly, in the sense that we're going to think of how when we just look at those points that we've covered before, the shortcomings of not knowing contentment, the disadvantages of craving after the body, and that when you crave things that are related to the body, when we do that, we can see based upon a personal experience that there's that ongoing thirst that cannot be quenched, right? So it grows stronger and stronger sometimes. And the more we become spoiled, the more sensitive our body become, or we become. The more spoiled we become with the attachment that we have to the body, the less capable we are of in dealing with things that just don't work out for us. So I think that it's easy to see how we freak out often when slight things don't work out for us. I remember that when I was living in India, we used to go sometimes during the wintertime when we had a couple of events of snow. We used to go without electricity for 10 days, and it was easy. I mean, easy in the sense that you just work your schedule around it without dramas. So you know that you have to finish your study before sunset, because otherwise you just have to suffice with candles. No, and it's not like an hour or two, or here we had before days in which we had 2 or 3 days without electricity. It has happened before, but and we make a big deal out of it sometimes. In India, I lived for certain durations without 10 days without electricity. So you just make do. So the more sensitive, so the more we are attached to the body, the more sensitive we become, the more incapable we are in working with those different difficulties. So this is what Shantideva points out here. And also our sense of discontentment lingers, it continues. So the disadvantages of craving after the body, we've covered that in the last couple of days. The reasonableness of cultivating non-attachment to the body, we spoke about that as well. Then the shortcomings of being inanimate, in that we spoke about the body doesn't have power of itself. It's not that it is moving by itself. It is not that it is a sentient thing. It is moved by the mind, and also what remains after the body is also just moved by the wind and so forth. So the shortcoming of being inanimate, in that the body is not an entity that governs itself. And today we spoke about the shortcomings of delusion. So being deluded about what right and what is right about what is wrong, being deluded about praise and defamation, praise and blame. So actually, before we continue with that, I just wanted to maybe touch upon verse 177, the reasonableness of cultivating a non-attachment to the body, because I thought that Khenpo Kumpa's presentation had a valuable advice. So in page 309, it says, consequently, Shantideva resolves that he will not give rein to the increase of his body wants, no occasion for acquisitiveness, even on the level of food and clothing. He will have no admiration for beautiful clothes and precious things hard to obtain. Instead, he will be content with whatever comes his way. In the beginning, such items are easily obtained. In the middle term, they are easy to retain and they are beneficial to enjoy since they are coveted by no one. Finally, when they are destroyed, the loss occasions neither suffering nor regret, for such conditions can easily be found again. In short, the best things are those that are obtained without difficulty and towards which the moment of loss at death, for instance, one will feel no attachment, which means that altogether what Shantideva, I think, says here, try to maintain simplicity. If we maintain simplicity, then we'll find that whatever we need, our provisions, would be easy to be found, and also will not generate a sense of regret when they are lost. So going back to the business with delusion. So exerting control over, the shortcomings of delusion. So being deluded about what is right and what is wrong. Basically, the more we are attached to the body, since that the more difficult it is for us to be very clear about virtue and non-virtue. So what we want to do in this practice, and also in all our practices, is to practice virtue, to abstain from non-virtue, and with that sense of confusion with respect to the makeup of the body, the reality of the body, the impermanence of the body, the attachment that we have to the body, which sees the body as existing in and of itself, and also pleasuring the body existing in and of itself independently. We do not engage what is important, what is virtue, and we also engage what is a non-virtue. So just to read through this verse. It's not this one, sorry, where is it? Having accumulated suffering for no purpose because of honoring this body, of what uses attachment and anger for this thing that is similar to a piece of wood. Yeah, this is where we are, I think. Whether I'm sustaining my body in this way, or whether it is being eaten by vultures and the like, if it has no attachment or hatred, why then am I so attached to it? So again, here Shantideva is continuing with speaking about the drawbacks of being attached to the body, which is the main thing that obstructs us from cultivating virtue in general, but also specifically here in the practice of shamatha. This attachment that we have to the body is what creates a lot of disturbance for sustaining a single pointed mind. So Shantideva says that we, first of all, with a sense of attachment, we forget about what is virtuous and what is non-virtuous. We engage with the non-virtue, forget about virtues. And also we have that idea that there is something that is self-sustaining within the body, as if the body is an entity that is governing itself. But Shantideva points out here that the body actually does not care after itself. Of course, we have physical reactions, right? So if we touch fire, we are being burned. If we are naked outside in the cold, we of course feel cold. So we do experience physical reactions, but it's not that the body is a sentient entity that thinks that now I need clothing, now I need water, now I need this. It puts out these signals, and the mind, a mental consciousness, interprets that. And then on that basis, we experience anger, attachment, pride, jealousy, and so forth. So Shantideva says that we are deluded about what is right and what is wrong, and we're also being deluded about praise and blame, praise and defamation. I think that we spoke about it before when we looked at the section of ridding yourself of attachment to praise and honor. So it says, it knows no anger when derided and no pleasure when praised. For what purpose am I wearing myself out like this? So we also said, I think that we said before that when someone, for example, criticizes you, derides you in relation to the body, if they're pointing out something that is actually true, like for example, sometimes we dislike hearing that we a little bit fat or that we've aged. Yeah, you know, it's considered to be pretty rude when you see someone that you haven't met for some time and you tell them that it seems that they put on weight or that they've they look slightly older. Yeah, I remember that, you know, I had a friend in India. That was my second time in India. And I met someone that I've met before, and he complimented me, and he said that I've gained weight. Yeah, it's a good thing in Tibetan society. If you're told that you've gained weight, it's a compliment. Yeah. And I thought myself, what do you mean? Like, I look pretty trim. I look still all right. Anyway, so if someone, as we said before, if someone is pointing out something that is right, why are we getting upset? Someone is pointing out something that is not correct, that is not real. What basis do we have for being upset? It doesn't really change who we are. So this is what we've said before. But here Shantideva points out something else, which we can add to the list of remedies to dealing with our afflictive states of mind. So here Shantideva says that if someone is criticizing us, is blaming us or praising us, it actually your body doesn't think for itself. It is your own mind. It is our own mind that creates stories, but the body itself doesn't really care about it. So why are we getting angry if the body doesn't care about it? So add that to the list. So then we have abandoning objections to that. I think that we've spoken about it in the last couple of days with questions that came up in Geshe-la's session, but also I think that in yesterday's tune, in which someone might say that I understand that there's no reason to crave after the body, but I still need a body. And therefore, since I still need my body, it's all right to crave for it. That's the argument that that was presented yesterday. And as we said, Geshe-la said today, and also before, we do adopt these two attitudes where on one hand, we see the body as a precious human body with freedoms and richnesses so that we can apply it for the practice of Dhamma so that we'd be able to be of benefit to ourselves and benefit to others. So that's one thing. But on the other hand, as Geshe-la said today, currently as beginners, the main obstacle that we have is the attachment that we have to the body. And indeed, as we said before, when we look at how much time we spend every day just in taking care of the body, and that time is wasted in terms of our Dhamma study and practice, our first priority is, first of all, to bring that down, to reduce the attachment that we have to the body. So therefore, here we place more emphasis on reducing the attachment to the body, but still at the back of our mind, we, of course, do not let go of the notion that we have a precious human body, which is difficult to find and very easily destroyed. Would you say the same thing with respect to reducing your attachment to sleep? I think that, first of all, physically, the body needs a rest and the mind also needs a rest. I think that in medical science, they say that we need 7 or 8 hours a day for sleep. That some people that can get by on less, some people that need more. So I think that, first of all, it's probably an individual thing. I think that when you go into retreat from people that have spoken with that have done long retreats, they say that once you structure your day with at least 4 long meditation sessions, and this is your focus, and you don't do much outside of it in terms of you're not working, you're not exercising, you're not speaking with friends and so forth, the need for sleep gets smaller and smaller to the point where you might need only 4 or 5 hours a night. And this is also something that you apply when you're going to do like a fully qualified tantric retreat. So I think that, first of all, for us, we give the body what it needs, but not more than that. So if you feel that 6 or 7 hours of sleep is enough, just set your alarm clock, wake up and don't remain in bed. I think that for me, it's easier said than done because I am attached to sleep and rest. Yeah, but I think that for us, it's important, at least at the beginning, to make sure that we sustain the body in a healthy way for practice. So then, though craving after the body is the source of much wrongdoings, one must guard it in order to take the essence of the leisures and endowments. Bye-bye. So in verse 184, and I wanted to read through Khenpo Kumpel's commentary of that section. Actually, let's look at the verse, first of all. Therefore, in order to benefit migrating beings, I shall give away this body without attachment. Although this has many faults, I should uphold it like a worker's tool. So it says in page 311, since Shantideva reflects, it is inappropriate to cling to his body out of selfish concern. He will instead give it away without the slightest attachment for the great benefit of others as their servant and utensil. And however many may be its blemishes, for it is filled with filth, and its maintenance is the occasion of much wrongdoing. Nevertheless, he resolves he will use and protect it as a necessary implement. All right, so that's with That was a section about, that dealt with examining the faults of the body. So reducing the confusion or the distorted mind that we have with respect to the body. And finally, Shantideva speaks about exerting control over the mind, turning back obstacles to virtue, developing the strength of effort in the antidote, and placing oneself in one pointed equipoise upon a virtuous focus. So the point here is that, as Geshe said in the morning session, the point in cultivating calm abiding for us is to destroy afflictions, to destroy afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations, to attain the state of liberation and to attain the state of enlightenment. So this is the unique way of using calm abiding in, first of all, a Buddhist way, but even more so in a Mahayana way. So then, in order to do so, in order to do that, Shantideva says, so enough of this childish behavior. Now, enough of dragging a feet, getting sidetracked with other things, getting sidetracked with frivolous entertainment, or not sorting out our priorities. Enough with creating non-virtues, with wasting our time or what have you. Enough of this. I shall follow in the footsteps of the skillful, having recalled the advice concerning conscientiousness. I shall turn away sleep and lethargy. Just like the compassionate sons of the victor, I shall bear the rigors of what is appropriate, the rigors, sorry, of what is appropriate. If I do not make a constant effort day and night, when will my suffering ever come to an end? Therefore, in order to dispel the obscurations, I shall withdraw my mind from wrong paths and constantly place it in equipoise upon the correct object of observation. So in order then to, so Kempo Kumban says, in order to rid oneself of afflictive emotions and thoughts, it is important to let the mind settle in meditative equipoise so that on that basis, we cultivate wisdom, right? So first of all, we want to develop calm abiding, in which the mind becomes single-pointedly placed on virtue. Then we suppress, with calm abiding, we suppress the manifestation of afflictions that belong to our current level and the levels below. And with a mind that is completely pliant, we develop wisdom, the power of wisdom, so that using the cultivation of calm abiding and special insight, we'd be able to rid ourselves of afflictive emotions and thoughts. All right, so that's chapter number 8. I'm wondering if you have any remaining questions with respect to chapter number 8, or shall we say a few things about dedication? Again, one thing to keep in mind before we, you know, if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them. But before we do that, one thing to keep in mind is that Shantideva doesn't explain here in great details how you actually cultivate shamatha. For the cultivation of shamatha, we need to consult other sources. So it means that to look at the 9 stages of mental placement, which are the methods for attaining calm abiding, and the practice of the 5 faults and the 8 antidotes, then we need to consult Asanga's compendium. We need also to, for example, study Lama Tsongkhapa's Lamrim Chenmo that gives a very detailed explanation of the 6 paths which are conducive with calm abiding, the 9 stages of mental placement, how we choose the object of meditation, different objects of meditation fulfill different purposes. All of this ocean of knowledge is found in Shantideva's, in Lama Tsongkhapa's Lamrim Chenmo. And here Shantideva doesn't really explain that. So the thing that he does explain in a chapter that is called Absorption or Meditation is how to rid yourself of the obstacles for cultivating concentration, which in some sense, when you look at Lama Tsongkhapa's text, he spends less time in explaining that. So we have here a very good source for dealing with attachment, with the hustle and bustle of the world and so forth. So this is an excellent source. So it is with ridding yourself of factors which are not compatible with calm abiding. And then he explains how to gather the conducive conditions and how to then practice, how to develop bodhicitta. And as we said before, you can look at that as being a unique object for cultivating calm abiding. So calm abiding that is focused on bodhicitta. Or you can also look at that in terms of developing the unique motivation for developing calm abiding, whereas the actual instruction for calm abiding are found elsewhere in other texts. So who made that painting of this winding path where you see a monk kind of leading an elephant, yeah, with the rope, the hook, and so forth? Who made that painting? I don't know who made it. I think that it's, what text is it based on? I think that probably it bears resemblance to what Lama Tsongkhapa says in his Lama Rinpoche, but I think that this shared with, I think, all Buddhist traditions in Tibet. So not only Lama Tsongkhapa's writings, but probably also the writings of others. Maybe it's based on also the presentation of a Sangha, but I'm not completely sure. All right.
Can I say something?
Yes, Dechen.
It is. This chapter 8 has been has highlighted to me the difference between self-grasping and self-cherishing, and I was really interested in the discussion that was instigated by you around the difference between self-grasping and self-cherishing. I mean, I always had assumed they were the same, they were the different interpretations for the same word. So to learn that they're not, that they're actually two different things, has been quite thought-provoking, has been really quite thought-provoking. And I mean, it's interesting that why isn't there any clear presentation on the differences between them? Like, it seems a major oversight.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. It's also, I feel as puzzled as you in that, and I think that Geshe also spoke about it maybe briefly in the previous module, that first of all, we have a lot of teaching on how to rid ourselves of self-grasping. There are a lot of teachings that tell us what grasping is, what the characteristics of self-grasping, what is the mode of apprehension. So we have a lot on that. Then from a Mahayana perspective, a self-cherishing attitude is one of the main objects of abandonment. This is something that we definitely need to eliminate. But still, there is not much written about self-cherishing. There's no definition, that official definition for self-cherishing. There's only like a description. So it is kind of, I do find it puzzling why there's not much written about it. I'm with you on that.
Are there any clues in the meaning of each word? You often will break down the meaning of each word. What is the different Tibetan word for each one?
Not much clue. I can tell you what the etymology of those terms, but I think that doesn't really say much. So first of all, I can actually speak about two terms in Tibetan. One of them is ran dun. Rang is self and dun is purpose. So when you use this term ran dun, it's normally used as to imply that someone is selfish, right? So they think first and foremost of their own purpose, their own welfare. So randun, that's one term. The second one, which is the common one for self-cherishing, is ranchinzin. So rang is self, che is to cherish, and zin is to hold. So che and zin can be taken to be holding oneself dear. So you hold oneself dear, you cherish yourself. I mean, that's as far as the etymology goes. I don't think that it offers more than what we've covered in class. What do you reckon? Does it offer more?
No. True. So, I mean, I've probably gone off on a wrong track here. I usually do when I try and do this. Is that, you know, in the 12 links where you have craving and grasping, is it a fair comment to say that this is in relation to self-grasping more so than self-cherishing, or shouldn't I even make such comparisons?
Well, in the 12 links of dependent arising, links 8 and 9, craving and grasping, are affiliated with attachment. They're considered to be under the umbrella of attachment. So they are based on self-grasping, in that the first link is ignorance, and then the karmic seeds that were planted by formative actions, which is based on ignorance, are activated by attachment. So of course, attachment again is based on ignorance. So craving and grasping are two forms of attachment. So craving to not be separated from pleasant things, and craving to be separated from painful things. So those two forms of cravings are under the banner of attachment. So are they more involved with self-cherishing? I think that could be both with self-cherishing and self-grasping, in that they're based on grasping at the self, because so long as ignorance functions, craving and grasping will still continue to operate. For us, I'd say that they're also associated with cherishing ourselves. But then also we need to think of the process by which ordinary bodhisattvas are still born in cyclic existence under the power of karma and afflictions. And therefore, for them, you also have the links of craving and grasping, but they operate, I think, not necessarily with a strong sense of self-cherishing, probably with very subtle levels of self-cherishing, or maybe no self-cherishing at all, depending on if you take self-cherishing to be a form of self-grasping, as Geshe-la was holding his position in the previous module, or if you take them to be completely different things according to other scholars. So Geshe Jamin and Geshe Sharing, both of them were quite adamant that when you enter the path of accumulation of the Mahayana, you have abandoned self-cherishing. So it depends on kind of the position that you take. For bodhisattvas, I think that craving and grasping would be not much involved with cherishing themselves, but they will still be there, because for ordinary bodhisattvas, they still take rebirth in samsara through the process of the 12 links. I hope that I haven't confused you.
I know, but my grey matter works slowly, is tumbling through that slowly. It is so, you know, the self-grasp, the self-cherishing. I mean, this has only really become highlighted when we are talking about Tonglen, exchanging, you know, cherishing ourselves, or changing our cherishing, self-cherishing to cherishing others. Yeah, it's where the difference has really been highlighted. Mm-hmm. And it seems as though that, you know, Geshe-la's point of view is based around that. Wait, Tick. Let me get. I'm having difficulties getting my thoughts together. Let somebody else have a go.
All right. I think that Geshe-la, in the previous module, we had a long discussion with Geshe-la trying to sort out whether self-cherishing is a type of self-grasping or not. Geshe-la was holding the position that it is. We have also other positions. So if you're not if you still feel that you're unclear about it, or at least today, then I think that you can go back to the transcripts. And I think that maybe I've also put some of it in the class notes. I have to look at that. I can't remember. Oli is saying, do we need calm abiding to practice resting in the nature of mind as the Nyingmas do when practicing Dzogchen? I think that I haven't studied Dzogchen before, so I don't really know what resting in nature of the mind is, but if I draw parallels between that and Mahamudra, and I think that probably it's, I think that maybe the practices are somewhat similar, then calm abiding is a prerequisite to that. So you certainly need to practice shamatha techniques for resting in the nature of the mind in a Mahamudra practice, and I suppose that would also happen in Dzogchen. But when you speak about practicing calm abiding or shamatha in the Kagyu tradition, in the Mahamudra, and maybe also in the, with Dzogchen, I'm not sure about Dzogchen, but at least it seems that in the Kagyu they call the practice of shamatha to be, rather than not necessarily what you attend at the end of your practice, but any duration within your meditation practice when you're trying to achieve some level of concentration. So you focus on your mind, you focus on the breath, you focus on an external object or an internal object for a certain duration. You maintain a certain single pointedness of mind. They call that shamatha. But really, kind of technically speaking, we're practicing the stages for accomplishing shamatha rather than practicing shamatha itself. Yeah, ideally we could practice shamatha. Yeah, I mean, we are practicing now the methods for attaining shamatha. And then, yeah, so you can set up where it's just like saying that, for example, we're not practicing bodhicitta, although we haven't attained it. So now when we practice bodhicitta, mainly what we do is we cultivate the causes for developing bodhicitta. And then on that basis, we have some experience of this altruistic intention, wanting to be of benefit to others, wanting to attain enlightenment for the sake of others. And then the time for developing bodhicitta would be when it is actually born in the mind in an uncontrived way. All right.
Okay, can you hear me again?
Yes, I can.
I have actually been looking at those notes that you did, which I've gone back to them on numerous occasions to try and wrap my mind around them. And I guess, you know, that final comment that question was, are cherishing oneself and cherishing others contradictory? And Geshe Sultram says no, and Geshe Tashi Tsering and Geshe Jamyang both say yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, you sort of think about that, cherishing oneself and cherishing others contradictory. Now, if you're a hearer or a solitary realizer, then in that circumstances, it's not contradictory. But if you're a bodhisattva, then cherishing oneself and cherishing others would be contradictory. Like, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this, that how Geshe Sultram came to the conclusion that they're the same. That, I mean, they're not the same, but they're not contradictory.
Well, it came to the conclusion that they're not contradictory because when we look at, for example, here's and so to realize the ahats.
Yeah.
So to begin with, Geshe Sultram's position was that self-cherishing is a type of self-grasping. So in order to then, in order to attain the state of liberation, here's and so to realizes have to abandon self-grasping. If they abandon self-grasping, it means that they also have abandoned self-cherishing.
Yes.
But then does it necessarily mean to say that they've developed cherishing others? No, because they haven't meditated on great compassion. Okay. So then it would mean that it's in this awkward situation where they don't have self-cherishing, but also they don't have an attitude of cherishing others. So according to this position, they're not contradictory. According to Geshe Sultram, Geshe Javan, and Geshe Tashi Tsering, they are contradictory in that in order to abandon self-cherishing, you have to meditate on cherishing others. If you don't meditate on cherishing others, you will not be able to abandon self-cherishing. And likewise, as soon as, no, even if you meditate on self-cherishing, as soon as, even if you meditate on cherishing others, as soon as a self-cherishing mind arises, it undermines the self-cherishing mind. So therefore, according to their presentation, it is contradictory.
Yeah. Is somebody saying something there?
No, that's it.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Thank you for that.
No worries. All right, so I wanted also just to say a few words about dedication. I think that this chapter is going to be pretty easy and pretty cruisy and inspiring and so forth. There's not much, I think, that I will be able to say later on. But what I wanted to just introduce today with respect to dedication, and we might also speak with Geshe-la about it tomorrow, if we have any questions from today. We spoke, first of all, of the need to dedicate. So we can actually think of a few different reasons to dedicate. First of all, we dedicate so that our roots of virtue will not be destroyed. So dedication safeguards our roots of virtue so that they're not destroyed. Do you remember the occasions that we spoke of in which roots of virtue are destroyed? So it said that there are situations where roots of virtues are destroyed. They're destroyed with, anyone remembers? Sorry? Incomplete circle of karma. No, it was not that point. It was in relation to, sorry?
With anger?
Yes. So when anger arises, at the beginning of the 6th chapter, it was said that when anger arises, hundreds or thousands of eons of accumulation of virtue are destroyed. So roots of virtue are destroyed by anger, but also destroyed by wrong views. All is saying, as an Arhat, does the distinction of self and others not disappear, and therefore the bodhicitta would arise and manifest of itself? I don't think so. I mean, otherwise it would have been the case where for hearers and so to realize the Arhats, they would spontaneously embark on the Mahayana path, but according to the teaching, it doesn't happen like that. They have to be, when you look at that from the viewpoint of the sutra tradition, it is said that they attend a state of liberation. They remain in that meditative equipoise for a long time until they're exhorted by a Buddha telling them that the path is not completed and there's still a way to go for them, and they inspire them, push them, encourage them to enter into the Mahayana path, to develop great compassion and then bodhicitta. So it doesn't happen automatically. But also, Oli, I think that probably what you're alluding to is that if the distinction of self and others disappear for an Arhat, it does disappear in meditative equipoise, but when they arise from that meditative equipoise, and why shouldn't there be occasions when they're not in meditative equipoise? So when they do arise from the meditative equipoise, they do have an appearance of self and others. So there is a duality of self and others. And they still have mistaken dualistic appearances in that self and others appear to hearers and sort of realize the Arhats as if they exist inherently, as if they exist in and of themselves, even if they don't grasp it, that self and others to exist in this way. The appearance is still there. So they still have dualistic appearances when they are outside of their meditative equipoise. So anger and wrong views can destroy roots of virtue. So it is first of all said that when we become angry, for example, roots of virtue that are included in the accumulation of merit are destroyed. Roots of virtues which are in the accumulation of wisdom are not destroyed. So that's one distinction to be made, right? Those which belong to the accumulation of merit. So when we dedicate our roots of virtue, we safeguard those roots of virtue so that even when anger arises, it will not destroy them. But then it's not enough just to dedicate our roots of virtue. We have to do it in general, we have to do it in a particular way. First of all, one benefit of dedicating our roots of virtue for the sake of complete enlightenment is that it is said that it is just like one drop in the ocean, where the drop will not go dry so long as the ocean does not go dry. Also, if we dedicate our roots of virtue for the sake of complete enlightenment, then we ensure the continuity of our roots of virtue until the state of enlightenment is attained. But also, in order to safeguard them from being destroyed by anger, they need to be combined with wisdom. So one moment of anger can destroy roots of virtue. When we safeguard it, we dedicate our roots of virtue for complete enlightenment, but also we seal them with a view of emptiness. So for those of us who are used to doing together the Guru Puja, and we do dedications which are created by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, dedicating it for ourselves who are empty of existing from our own side, for the sake of sentient beings who do not exist from their own side, for our attainment of enlightenment, which does not exist from its own side, and so on and so forth. So what we're doing in that dedication is that we're safeguarding our roots of virtue so that they're not destroyed in the future. So it's important to seal our roots of virtue with the emptiness of the three spheres. And Khenpo Kumpel says that in page 394 in his commentary. So 394. Yeah, 394. So it says when so it says, accordingly, without the dedication of the roots of virtue, virtue comes to nothing. For there are many causes for its destruction, such as the occurrence of anger. By contrast, when virtue is dedicated to the attainment of enlightenment, it is as when drops of water fall into the ocean. They will remain for as long as the ocean lasts. Virtue dedicated to the attainment of Buddhahood will not be spent until enlightenment is gained. Instead, it will increase and actually take us there. So those are benefits of dedicating, right? Preventing it from being destroyed, but also ensuring that it will increase and actually take us to the state of enlightenment. So dedication causes an increase in the effect of positive actions commensurable with the aggregates of being, which means with the number of beings, and this is as vast as space. So we dedicate a virtue to all beings which are vast as space, and therefore the effect of that also becomes as vast as space. Dedication transforms virtue to the cause of great enlightenment or Buddhahood. In the same way that a skilled goldsmith can fashion fine gold into ornaments and other things of small and medium worth into images of the Buddha and their diadems, things of great value. So when dedication is associated with a wisdom unstained by the concepts of the three spheres, which means if our dedication is not done in which we hold the self to truly exist, hold others to truly exist, whatever we dedicate to truly exist, whatever we dedicate for to truly exist. So if it is done with a wisdom, if it is associated with wisdom unstained by these concepts, it is said to be uncontaminated. If it is not associated, it is regarded as contaminated. So the omniscient Lord Dharma Longchenpa said that to dedicate positive action and to seal it only afterwards with emptiness is tantamount to a nihilistic view. It does not constitute a dedication free from the concepts of the three spheres. So suppose that you're doing dedication, you finish your dedication, and after that you're meditating on emptiness. You're thinking you've done your dedication, completed it, and then you think, and by the way, nothing whatsoever exists truly. Here, Longchenpa says that this is not the right way to go. It is not a dedication that is free from the concepts of the three spheres. Therefore, it is important to make the dedication in a manner that is free from these three concepts: the agent who dedicates, we ourselves; the virtue dedicated, whatever we've done; and the object on account of which the dedication is made, all of which lack real existence or true existence, even though they appear.
So, excuse me, Venerable Katzen.
You are excused.
Whereabouts in Manjushri's nectar is that? I mean, I've got an electronic version here, so I'm not quite sure whether your 397 is 394.
So it's at the beginning of chapter number 10. At the very beginning of chapter number 10. So at chapter number 10, you have a brief exposition, and the sections that I've read are just maybe a couple of passages down from the brief exposition.
All right, I'll check it out.
All right.
So when I finish my practices, my meditations, I always finish with may the supreme jewel of bodhicitta not yet risen arise and grow, and then may the supreme jewel of wisdom. Are you sealing? Am I sealing it appropriately, or is that not enough?
I think that to be on the safe side, when we finish our meditation practice, when we do such dedications, then maybe it's good to think for however long we can think about it. If it's just for a few seconds, it's okay. If we can meditate for a minute or two, or maybe 5 minutes on emptiness, reminding ourselves that we do not inherently exist, and we think that may the supreme jewel bodhicitta, a mind that does not exist in and of itself, not yet born, arise and grow, may that born not decline but increase more and more. So to think about that already, in relation to bodhicitta not existing inherently, it depends upon cause and conditions. It depends upon imputations and so forth. So may that which does not exist inherently arise and grow. May it never decline but increase more and more. So in this way, we can also combine it with other dedication verses. Then when you think of, we have other dedication verses when we said that may I be able to practice like, Manjushri and Samantabhadra and so forth. So reminding ourselves that I do not inherently exist before we think of this verse, that Manjushri and Samantabhadra themselves also do not inherently exist. The practice that they've done, that we aspire to, also does not inherently exist and so forth. Yeah, lots of dedication verses. It's good to actually, if we have the time, to just consider them rather than saying them, all of them quickly and sometimes mindlessly, as I do end up doing sometimes at the end of my meditations. It's good to take the time to really think about them clearly. There are a few more points that I wanted to mention with respect to the dedication that Khenpo Kumpel is present in his commentary, but we will do it tomorrow. All right, let's leave it here for now. Due to this virtue, I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigratory beings without exception to that state. May the precious Supreme Bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. In this land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. You uphold the subduer's moral way, who serves in the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Majjuna's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, protector of myself and others, your disciples. Please live long. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.